Hi everyone. I'm going to have to stand behind the lectern because I was here second and didn't get the microphone. So, pity about that. Andy Murray. I thought it'd be great to have a sort of an ugly Scotsman representing an ugly Scotsman on the screen. So, thank you very much for coming along to hear what I've got to say this afternoon. I think it's interesting. There's a lovely sort of segue into what I was going to speak about this afternoon in terms of what is marketeers and what is loyalty and all that kind of stuff. I've got no idea because I'm not a marketeer. I'm just your poor service boy here to speak to this esteemed audience of marketeers. And so why would you bother listening to what I've got to say? Hopefully, I'm going to tell you the secret of advocacy that you can take away from loyalty world. And that's about this whole kind of idea of service, and service being a really key tool to the experience and the whole impression that your customers take away from you. And I'd like to say that it's probably, from our opinion, it's the opportunity to become the real differentiator in how your customers see the company. Not just the great sort of loyalty marketing type gimmicks, but an opportunity for the things that your customers speak to you about. I'm not going to talk about Sky in so much as the content that we provide, or the media entertainment, or the telecommunications, or the various apps that we use, be it from Sky News through Sky Go. What I'm going to tell you about is how we design and like to think about our actual relationships with the customers themselves. Whenever I give any one of these kind of talks or whatever, I always like to find out, show of hands, as to who's a Sky customer in the audience. So who's a Sky customer? Just so that we don't get any dodgy questions, if you have a problem, speak to me at the end, and I promise that I will get it sorted out for you. If you're not a Sky customer and you're thinking, what have I missed? Speak to me at the end, and I'll sell you some Sky as well. So we'll do everything for everyone out there. So what if you took service, and what if you got it into a situation where customers actually said they wanted to interact with you rather than they had to interact with you? And I think if you just listen to those words very carefully, there's a huge piece in there about engagement and relationship. How can we take something like service, which has traditionally been seen as quite mundane and boring, and gosh, I'm going to have to phone Sky, or I'm going to have to go online with Sky because I've got a problem with my viewing, or whatever the case may be, and turn it into, wow, whenever I need something done, it's done. But actually, what I really value is the actual ability to understand what I've got, to maximize all those great products that I have, etc., etc. So, what am I going to do today? I'm going to give you some numbers, because I thought that a marketing audience would like some numbers just to keep you engaged. I'm going to have a look at what the customers actually say to us, to Sky, in terms of what they want from service. And the key thing is we'll try and look at across the various different channels that they talk to us about. And then I suppose I'm going to opine that service might actually be the answer to all the great loyalty challenges that you have out there, or certainly one of the key answers to it. So, some numbers. Just to put it into context, Sky's customer base, 10.65 million customers at the moment. That's another million figure, 28.9 million individual products that we provide to those customers. And that's our churn rate, 10.9%, which in the pay TV industry is a pretty globally significant figure in terms of actually what we like to achieve. But again, if you can't do the complicated math, but if you take 10% of 10 million customers, that's 1 million customers leaving us every year. So actually trying to work out a better way to engage and a better way to retain those customers will never be a thing that we stop doing, because that's 1 million customers. We're still growing. It's 1 million customers we have to replace if we lose them. So really, really important. What opportunities do we have? 40. We have more than 40 million telephone conversations with our customers on an annual basis. We have 2 million live chats, one-on-one live chats on our online spaces with our customers every year. And this is probably a staggering figure for you. We visit your home 3.9 million times. We're actually in your house, one of the most private spaces you can actually engage a customer in, and that's where we are. And what an opportunity that is to get a correct relationship. Move it away from the tradesman who puts on his little blue boots and doesn't make a mess of your nice white carpet into someone who can actually be an ambassador for, an advocate, an ambassador for your actual company and your brand. And that is something that is a huge space for us. We have 480 million site visits every year. Again, a different use of the channel. In a year, we have generated 100,000 active registered forum users in our service space. So that's people coming on and helping each other and doing a little bit of community serve. And that's been a huge increase for us. We have 12,000 advisors across the country speaking to our customers, doing that kind of 40 million plus calls. And those engineers, there's 4,000 of them out there. There's more BSkyB vans out there than there are RAC and AA vans. So there's a nice little stat for you to take away. So what's the point of all those numbers? It's to try and put it into scale and actually say that one of your channels, i.e. service in this instance, is actually having all this interaction with your customer. And the power or the destruction it can cause are equal in both measures. So it's really, really important that we try and actually get this sort of stuff right. So we're currently going through a sort of a whole kind of transformation space, and I suppose we'll come on to it in terms of how do you take those traditional siloed channels and actually make them a more joined up and horizontal experience. So we did a lot of research out with our customers in one-to-one sessions to actually find out what it is that our customer base wanted from us as a service provider in this particular instance. This one's quite interesting, human at its heart. So what did they say? What did they mean by that? They talked about, give me a person to help me when I want one, and it's not all about self-serve. I think when we started a lot of this journey, we assumed that the millennium generation were all about iPhones and doing everything online. It's not true. It's not true. They want to go to the channel that is most appropriate to the emotion and the thing that they're doing at that moment in time. Again, might be a statement of the blinding obvious, but there's a requirement to be personal when they want it to be personal. That can be supported online via our very successful kind of live chat experience, or it can be the fact that we now do a lot of social listening and we're out on Twitter and we're able to respond both collectively and on a one-on-one basis if we see a customer in distress. But the key thing is it's got to be a kind of personal service when they want it. This will be disappointing to the people, is stop the big sell, i.e. when I want service, don't try and wrap it up in some clever way to give me sales. Now, I always get in trouble with my marketing colleagues back in Sky when I put something like that up. That doesn't mean that you don't sell through a service relationship, but it does mean you sell at the appropriate time in your service relationship. And it's not a case of just sticking on stuff because it's there and forcing it. It's about getting your staff and getting our frontline people, those 12,000 advisors, those 4,000 engineers, to really listen to what the customer is actually saying and what the state of mind that the customer is actually in at any moment in time. Another big thing, which is big to us, is expertise and providing customers with access to expertise. And one of the things that we come up with all the time is that we provide such a lot of content. We're a telecommunication company in our own right. We're giving you such additional sort of value in our product set through different apps and all the clever things that they can do. And you probably aren't using half of it, if not the rest. And that's a big sort of challenge back to us in so much as, how on earth do we get you to realize, and I would say that, but to realize the value that we're providing you and get you to understand and maximize and do all those cool things. 10.65 million customers represents essentially 10 million households, And in those households, there's a whole family all hanging off the back of that one subscription. So again, in terms of reach to human beings, it's much, much greater. And they all have slightly different needs, and they like to use things differently, be it from the Xbox connected through to their iPad, to their iPhone, to whatever it is. We have to be able to explain that. And it's very, very difficult. So again, providing a way that customers can get that expertise is something that is really important, because at the end of the day, that is where the engagement comes from, if they can really value what it is they're buying from us. A bit of an obvious one, but really, really important. And this is a really important point, I think, from an integrated channel perspective. It's this idea that resolution and consistency is everything. Speed's great. Speed's great if you can do it. But what is really important for the customers is certainty. If I go online, if I tweet, if I phone them up, if an engineer tells me something in the house, it's all one version of the truth. And for those of you that are sort of more familiar with the operational space within large service-based organizations, tying all that together in the back end is really quite difficult. And again, we have developed a way now that we take the online experience and try and satellite all the channels around it so that you're looking in through one portal. And whereas previously we might have said to a customer, can you please go online and do something, because it's kind of cheaper, the customer, it doesn't make sense. But what we'll now do is we'll go with you, we'll advise you in there, we'll co-browse with you, we'll take you in there, and we'll try and pass information to you and update you. So if you want to phone, that's cool. If you want to go online, that's cool too. But you can actually just see the one version of the truth in the data in the back end. So that resolution and consistency is the one thing that we speak to our people about all the time in trying to make sure that that's what we deliver. And that kind of leads nicely into trust. Trust is really important. And we've found that customers will tell us, I trust my friends and my communities far more than clearly a big corporate like Sky or whatever. And that's really important. So again, how do you come up with a way of segmenting from a customer's perspective that makes sense? Is that local? Is that a regional type thing? Is that a like-minded people who like a particular genre of film or a particular sport? And you can cut the base up in that particular way. But what we've found is such a really, really important thing within our staff, and particularly within our contact center community, is that we chop them up too. And we try now and match them to segments of the base and really strive for that sense of ownership that individual members of staff can really relate to. If you get down to sort of contact centers of about 300, 400 FTEs, that probably matches up to a customer base of about 200, 300,000 customers. They love it. The increase in satisfaction that is delivered is 10 points overnight, because somehow it switches onto the mind that somehow these are their customers. It's not randomly someone from that 10 million base that might phone me up. It's actually my customer, and therefore my customer I need to resolve that issue for, or provide that piece of information, or show them the great thing that they've actually got. And that's really, really powerful. And then finally, time is precious. Yes, I said speed wasn't as important as certainty, but just treating customers in a way that values their time is really, really important. It's probably one of the biggest kickers, positively or negatively, in our NPS score. If we get people hanging around for, be it the supply of something or the fix of something, or even just hanging on the telephone if they can't get through. So really, really important stuff. So that's what the customer actually wants. So when we look at then designing back on that, we can probably put it into kind of three, what I've called grandly strategic themes. The first one is to really focus on that serving ethos and move it into that kind of space where you're anticipating and you're helping. That focus and that design, really important. We have split everything we do now into 12 very distinct customer journeys that sit right across the experience from sort of becoming aware of Sky right through to leaving Sky. We do a lot of work around personas. And again, we find in the media and the telecommunication space that it isn't Generation Y versus Generation X. It is the fact that people have different needs and wants around the actual product set they buy from us. and therefore actually understanding that and understanding their capability, their technical capability or their interests, really important, but really powerful when you get it right as well. And there's a big ask around personalization. Customers expect you to know them, but that doesn't mean sort of spy on them in a big data sort of way. It means for us just knowing the basics about them. We absolutely in Sky need to know what products you buy from us. We need to know what packages you're actually doing so that we can actually have a sensible conversation around what you're watching and what you might like in the future. But it doesn't mean we smother them or try to smother them in terms of next best actions or pumping stuff out to them from a what you should buy next, etc. It's trying to understand exactly what they might benefit from based on that basic knowledge. I've touched on it before. You've got to get the basics really, really nailed. One version of the truth, treating that time as really precious and making that expertise accessible and brilliantly easy as an experience. We've sort of coined that phrase of brilliantly easy across the organization now and been able to use it as a question that anyone can ask themselves. From the guys and girls designing the new boxes that we might put up, am I providing a user interface that is brilliantly easy? Easy to use, pretty cool at the same time. Am I the contact center guy who's answering the phone and giving that experience? It was easy for the customer to get their point across, and the service I provided was brilliant. So that really sort of simple phrase we use and we can use in a test case. We've just put out a new router into our broadband base, and we applied it to, you've got to check this out, the box design is fantastic in terms of how you open the thing up and everything's there in a very simple way as opposed to in different bags, etc. The amount of effort going into that sort of level of detail is where we're trying to take a lot of the stuff that we now do. Because again, the customer values it, you know. What's a microfilter? If you show them it, you put it in a nice little picture and you show it how it goes in, it makes a world of difference. And as I think the biggest thing that we've learned, so I said we've got 12,000 advisors in the phone, we have 4,000 engineers. People are your differentiator. That is who's actually providing the experience. That's the person picking up the phone. That's the person in the home. That's the person on the end of the tweet and the end of the Facebook page. And getting that message to your staff in a way that is accessible to them is worth its weight in gold. I think we've been through a journey where we've done transformation programs, upskilling programs, multi-skilling programs, you name it, all the buzzwords are there. But fundamentally, you've got to get down to a very simple message. And what we've done in our contact centers is we've removed all our frontline KPIs. So all those traditional things like average handling time, conversion rates, and all that kind of good stuff. They're important KPIs, but at the right level. We try and tell our advisors now, just do the right thing for the customer. Give them the resolution or the service that they want, and all those KPIs will naturally flow in behind. Now, that's quite a brave thing to do for not so much the frontline agent, but for the middle manager who's grown up through all his or her career with tight KPIs being driven down. That real piece of asking them to think just purely from the customer's perspective is really, really hard to get across, but again, really powerful when you get it to work. So those 12 customer journeys, designing across those different experiences, really, really important, and focusing on the needs. So what's the customer asking for as opposed to what we want to give them from a company perspective. So the must-haves, the want more ofs, and the real wow moments. Capture all those, and then come along with your business strategy and your priorities and see how that can be applied to fundamentally what it is that the customer is actually wanting. And again, that's where the value starts to play out from the customer's perspective. We want service to be a product, essentially, in its own right. It costs a lot of money. It's not money that's directly put in front of the customer, but they're paying for a service thing, and why shouldn't that be as good as the content? Why shouldn't that be as good as the product set? And therefore provide a reason for people to come and join Sky as much as stay with Sky. And that's my point around this whole thing about get service right, and it can really become your loyalty tool. And you can put all your gimmicks around that as well, and that's fantastic. But fundamentally, if they value what they're paying for, then you're onto a winner. So we've also got that need, and I thought I'd throw this slide in specifically given the integrated channel nature of the talks this afternoon. You've got to go and meet them in the social space as well. So again, you can make it reactive, proactive on those one-to-one channels, but you've got to get out in that main area. And Sky have got presence now in all the major social spaces, as well as our own specific Sky help forum. We've seen probably, I think since July of last year, 140% increase in traffic on our Twitter feeds. We've got a 54% growth in our Facebook interactions. We have social media teams who are doing about 1,300 individual transactions a day, as well as posting widely as well. So our ability to look, listen, and respond when we see something, not to try and change what people are talking about, but just join the debate with them. And then if we spot a customer who's in a particular personal distress, we can bring them in. So we'll, on average, do about, if we find an individual customer, for example, on Twitter having a problem, we'll respond within 6 minutes and bring them in to a one-on-one conversation. Really, really important, but really important not to fight the customer in that social space. It's just they'll say what they want to say, and that's cool, but you've just got to get out and join them with it as well and be available and be part of that ongoing conversation. It's a really, really important space for us going forward. So I think, in summary, for us, and Bradley Wiggins is ours, by the way, in case anyone was doubting that, valuing customer service as a product in its own right is really, really important. Relentlessly focusing on the basics and getting that right and getting it really consistent and a single view across all those channels. And then, as I say, I think the key point for me is that realizing that it's actually your frontline people, be it shop staff, be it phone staff, that are actually the key differentiator when it comes to loyalty and not the marketing. It's the interaction within that service estate that will make the difference. It's not a bad thing, service. It's a channel in its own right. Thank you very much.